President Trump joins us from the White House. Kellyanne, I know details are sketchy at this point, but obviously we're monitoring the situation, aren't we?
Yes, of course. Here at the White House, that's happening, and I have nothing further to add. I just want to reemphasize that Griff is going off media reports, and I have nothing to say at this moment. I know the White House will speak later.
Well, radical Islamic terrorism is a national security threat, and someone who will be new inside the White House taking that threat on is Ambassador John Bolton. Announced yesterday by the president that he will be replacing H.R. McMaster as the national security advisor. Kellyanne, give us your insights on that change.
Well, you know, this president was elected in part because he was going to be so tough on radical Islamic terrorism, and in fact has. And through the leadership of his team, including General McMaster, the president himself noted yesterday that there's an America First national security strategy. ISIS is all but gone, particularly in places like Syria. This president has brought North Korea to the table, under conditions, of course, and many different areas of his peace through strength policy. But if you can show a great distinction between the left's view of foreign policy, national security, and terrorism, and this president's, it really is along the fault line of how to deal with radical Islamic terrorism. This president is willing to name them and blame them and then go after them. And it's been a very successful strategy, as you see. It doesn't get a lot of coverage in the mainstream media. But what's happened over time, just under his 14 months in office, it's called causation, not coincidence. So we'll be monitoring this very closely. The president has been very emphatic and very, I think, specific in his policies against radical Islamic terrorism, whether the incidents happen here at home or abroad. And they happen far too often.
Now, when Hope Hicks stepped down, when she resigned from communications director at the White House, there was a lot of talk that maybe you would step into that role. I know we had you on the show and you said you weren't interested in that, but The Atlantic is reporting that you are moving closer, according to their sources, to accepting the president's offer for you to...
So it must be true.
Right, for you to take over for Hope Hicks.
I'm here to support the president however he sees is most important. I don't have any personnel announcements at this time. The president controls the timing, content, and tone of all of those personnel announcements. I will tell you that in the press and comms office, where I try to support everything that those very, very courageous and hardworking men and women are doing every single day, you're talking about probably 50 or so folks who are not household names, who work incredibly long hours, make great sacrifices away from their families, probably away from their sleep often enough, to serve the nation they love so much. And I really do honor them in their work so emphatically. And I will do whatever is best, my best and highest uses here. As counselor to the president, that takes on any number of different tasks, and one has been in terms of policy. That's been my major portfolio here. But I think to be effective communications directors, as we've seen, you also have to know policy. You have to be read in. But we have very talented people here. I just wanted to go back quickly on General McMaster and Ambassador Bolton, if I may, and not talk about me, is that General McMaster has asked the Army, he's told them that he is leaving, retiring this summer after 34 years of public service. And I want to make sure I put an exclamation point on that. Those are the types of individuals who come to this administration to serve this country and this president. And as the president said yesterday, he's very grateful for his service. The national security strategy was the earliest delivered in any recent administration, and it's chock full of details. I can't pretend most people have read it, but they ought to, because it really gives you a window into the soul of this president's national security strategy, America First strategy moving forward.
Okay. Kellyanne, we're confused, though, because we've been reading those news reports that when the president was first assembling his crew, his cabinet, he was considering John Bolton maybe for Secretary of State, but according to the Washington Post, the president does not like guys with mustaches, and John Bolton's got a mustache.
That is way too glib and unimportant for me to address. The president has never discussed that in my presence. And by the way, I just think that he's a qualified man, and I do know.
He's not just a talking head, as somebody on one of the other channels worked for.
I wanted to say that, you know, Steve, the irony is not lost on me that you have a lot of, quote, TV stars calling Larry Kudlow and John Bolton TV stars, TV personalities. It's kind of weird. They are men of intellectual heft and substantial accomplishments in their respective fields. I've known both of them for decades. That's what happens when you're old around here. And we're always very pleased, this country should be pleased, when people who don't need another chapter in their illustrious careers want to come in and serve the nation. And it also should be very clear to no one what President Trump's vision is on, in the case of Larry Kudlow, his economic agenda, what his vision is for national security moving forward. Whenever people have shock and surprise, I have shock and surprise. This president could not be more clear of how he has felt about tariffs, for example, or China and what he signed yesterday. He's been talking about this for decades, and certainly for 3 years as a candidate, president-elect and now president. So it's his agenda. If people support it, they should be here. If you're not with the program, you should get with the program or get
Kellyanne.
out. But that doesn't mean blind loyalty. This is a man who takes into consideration everybody's different inputs and ideas, and that makes him a wonderful leader and a terrific boss.
One of the things he was very clear when he was running for president was he wanted to rebuild our military. And the spending bill that runs through September will do that. But, you know, he didn't wind up with the wall out of this. And there's a little bit of fence money in it. But for the most part, that particular thing that the president really wanted, he's not getting from his Republican-led Congress.
It's a great start, though, and the president made that clear. It's $1.6 billion. This is a man of action in a town of talk. So the fact that people who were mocking the wall not so long ago are now funding the wall is a really big leap forward. And in that omnibus bill, you're also seeing the military funded, as you noted briefly.
That's big.
This is incredibly important to the president. It should be important to every president, but sadly, this president is head and shoulders above of some others when it comes to funding the military and making good on his promise to give the resources and the respect back to our law enforcement, our Border Patrol agents, and certainly our military and our veterans. He's made great strides in all those spaces while he has been president. You also see funding for school safety. You see historic funding for opioids, $3 billion this year in FY 2018, $3 billion next year, and a total of a $13 billion package over the next several years. So the president's priorities are being funded, and the Democrats shut down the government in December or January, I think it was, you'll recall. That's not happening again. I think that was a huge mistake. And let's be very clear. This omnibus bill, the priorities that are being funded here are going on the heels of the president's fiscal and economic accomplishments. This president gave us the most historic middle-class tax cut ever. And what that means is he's able to build on that economic message through the spending priorities.
Right.
But people are trying to go back on the taxes now. It's not important. They're just crumbs.
Well, the key, though,
we'll continue to brag about that all year long because it's key.
All right. And no government shutdown.
Kellyanne, thank you for your time.
Shutdown.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, coming up.
Back to that breaking news out of France. A terrorist surrounded after a hostage situation inside a supermarket. Sebastian Gorka is going to join us next.
Plus, Senator Lindsey Graham.